This is the panel my kid is at.
My kid refused.
I'm Courtney Sandifer. I did a panel yesterday with my husband, and I feel like I'll be able to talk more in this one. I'm kidding. It really is not that bad. We met on a set 10, 11 years ago, and both freshly divorced, and both love filmmaking, and we're both crazy, and so we hit it off. And we started making movies together with our first one, Haunted Trailer, in 2011. We screened it at the end of 2012. And then we've made we made 2 other features together. And then our friend Joe produced or directed a feature called Conjoined that Chuck wrote and produced. And I did some set dressing on it. But over the course of the 10 years, I've worked on about 20 feature films in different roles, mostly set, art department, except for the 3 that I produced with Chuck. And I've written several screenplays that I have not produced. I've made about, I lost count of the short films because you kind of, over the years, you lose count, which sounds incredibly like big-headed, but I think I've made about 12 short films that I wrote and directed. I do video production for a living. I make short docs and commercial videos and stuff like that. I write and produce and project manage. And so I do it for a living, but not these indie horror movies for a living because they're really hard to make for a living. And then you're going to introduce yourself. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm Catalina Querida, and I'm based here in DFW. I guess I will format my introduction similar to Courtney's. I also work with my husband. His name is Joe Manco. We're in charge of Little Spark Films. We've been making films for almost 10 years, and we did not meet on set. We actually met at a hotel we used to work at. But as it turns out, we both really, really loved films, and so we decided to try it, and have been trying it for, like I said, almost 10 years. We've done several shorts. Our first feature is currently in post-production. A lot of our shorts and trailers are on like Trauma Now, like Watch Trauma Now. So we like to do stuff that's just like fun and schlocky. That's pretty much it.
So since you talked about getting started, besides your husband, who did you meet and who have you networked with? Who were the first people that you networked with?
Honestly, we just kind of asked our friends. We just, just like get a bunch of people together. I forced him to get a little DSLR. Like, we still have our little T3i. It's not a good DSLR, but we were like, hey, just work with what you have. So we've actually done like even a lot of trailers for the Fake Trailer Showcase. I don't know if anyone had been here years previous. The Fake Trailer Showcase is so much fun. Just because you have the opportunity to make something really short, fast, and just throw it out there.
Yeah, so Chuck and I met. We had already started networking in the community. And the reason why I actually started filmmaking is because I finished a master's degree in like nonprofit management, public administration, and I was bored that summer. And I was like, I'm going to try screenwriting. I always loved movies. I would watch all the behind the scenes. And it never occurred to me that I could actually do it myself. Like, it was never a thing, And so, like, my kids were little, and I had all this time, but all this energy where I was usually being creative and writing papers and stuff for school. And I was like, I'm going to learn how to do screenwriting. And I just started looking around. And we live in Houston, so there's lots of other people in Houston that are thinking the same thing. And they like to go, make short films on the weekends. And so I found that group of people, and Chuck had already found that group of people. And there's, hundreds of us in these little groups that we network together. And it just turned out to be like a really good creative environment to sort of practice. And you don't have a lot of investment of money and time. You can do it on the weekends. And I also learned I was one of the more organized of the group. A lot of people go into filmmaking and they're the creative and they like to write and make costumes and stuff like that. And there's a lot of organization and planning, project management that goes into it that I actually was pretty good at. And so I ended up doing that and fell in. So people started inviting me to be like assistant director and stuff, and I was actually good at it. And I was like, what? It's completely changed, and like my whole career has changed. Like my entire life changed because of it, actually. So we found our network, and then we, you find people that you work together with really well, and you just keep working with them. Like you say, what do you want to do next? And I talk about what I want to do next, and then we plan to do it, and you do it together, and make your mistakes together, and learn from it, and learn who you don't want to work with again, and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you're gonna find people like in the strangest places. If you see someone that's a cosplayer, you're like, oh, okay, well, they're good at makeup. They're good at creating costumes. They obviously have enough time. They have like enough organizational skills. Back to the organizational skills to put a complicated costume together, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's actually how I met the Tori Beetlejuice. Is that I had run into her several times at Frightmare, and then the church. I don't know if anyone's from Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area. And I was like, man, this girl, she always has such amazing makeup, and I'm not a makeup person, so why don't I just talk to her? So really a lot of it for us is just like, hey, why don't I just talk to the person? I see that they're very talented in this area, and inviting people into your group.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how people just kept inviting me because I was organized, and like they didn't know how to go from script to screen, and there's all these steps that you need to take. And so anybody that's like organized during that process, they get a little bit more ahead.
Oh yeah, if you find a person that if you have people that you can identify their strengths and then put them in where they belong, because even though sure you can split your time between 3 or 4 jobs, if you have someone that's dedicated to one specific thing, like organization, like a script breakdown, because that takes forever, then it really, really helps you in the long run. And especially having another pair of eyes, because they're going to see things differently than you see it.
Yep, for sure. And, people on set, even like if you have people that just want to help and they don't know what they want to do, just give them a job. Just tell them to pay attention to this one thing. Like, help us look for continuity issues, or can you just watch the background and make sure nobody walks through that area? Like assign them a job, and then they do that one job, and you're good, and you take something off of your mind because you've put it on their plate. And so a lot of people they just want to come and they're production assistant, and you give them a task. If they do it well, then next time you can trust them to do something else and something bigger, and you can move them up in different, you can trust them more. So I actually teach adjunct. I'm an adjunct instructor at Houston Community College, and the students come in there and they think they're going to be Martin Scorsese when they come out of the program, and they they're like, I'm a gaffer, but you to go onto a bigger set, and you're not going to get a gaffer role. You're going to have to work your way up to that. You go on set and you're a production assistant. You start out as a PA. You just help, and you help with that department. And then after they know they can trust you with just like picking up the water bottles, and you're there, you show up every time, you don't flake, you move your way up, and network with those kind of people. I want to know, how did you get the trauma stuff going?
Okay, so the true story is that I was drunk one night, and I tweeted, like, DM'd Lloyd Kaufman. So that's the truth of what happened. So I probably not do that. I don't know if he wants to, like, have a million people bothering him. But honestly, just like posting about like being a fan, showing that you are a fan and showing that you do appreciate it. I do appreciate their work. I do highly recommend the direct the Make Your Own Damn Movie series, the whole series. There's in book format, and then there's also they should have all of it on YouTube or the Watch Trauma Now app. And we had watched the Produce Your Own Damn Movies, the first part, like a week ago, and it was still really informative. Like he, sits down with Roger Corman. He sits down with all these people that are giving you really insightful information that even if you don't need it right now, you'll probably need it later.
Yeah, you'll remember it. I watched all the Robert Rodriguez behind the scenes and his, 10 tips or whatever. I don't even remember what it's called now. And then his Rebel Without a Crew book. And so you just consume all of this information, and you really don't understand it until you're on set and you're seeing it happen in real time. That's really where you go to school. You go and you do it and you try things out. I do think having Lloyd Kaufman in your movie is a pretty big deal, though. Like,
honestly, he just happened to be in town. Like, I saw that he had posted that he was going to be in town, and I said, hey, if you just happen to have some time. And the thing about Lloyd Kaufman, Pat Kaufman, is that they truly, truly, truly care about independent films and independent cinema, and they will literally give anyone a chance. Yeah. But at the same time, if you're not prepared, they might kind of like be, you'll see them like judging you because we were not prepared, quite honestly. Like, we didn't know we were gonna actually be able to work with them. So we were able to throw something together last minute and, call in some favors and stuff. And I mean, everything worked out fine. Everybody's happy. Like, I was talking to one of them this morning, but, the preparation and the organization, like, for real, it is so important.
Yeah.
And it's just simple things like writing out a list. I have my notebook here. I have my notebook app on my phone that I just write stuff down and then go back and reorganize it later. Just reorganize as you go.
Yeah, and communication. Just letting everyone know what's happening so that they all know when to be where and what they're going to be expected to bring with them and all that stuff. I did, like, so you shot Lloyd Kaufman for your movie. How long was he on set?
It was just a short. It was actually just something that we threw in the film, the fake trailers.
Yeah. So was he on set for like 3 hours?
We had him for like 3 hours. We went to our friend's bar. We went ahead, filmed it. We got them some lunch, and then we brought them to their hotel room because they had some meetings and stuff.
But there were some stunts involved.
Okay, so what it was a concept that we ended up just calling Murder Balls, and it's about like these people that are at they're at a bar, and this lady, she's like trying to pick up Lloyd Kaufman, and then they end up getting involved with like some punk, like Cretan type of characters, and then we built a story around it. So the stuff with Lloyd Kaufman, though. He actually told us, like, he'll give you tips, like, when he's there with you. He told us just to reverse, because we had someone hitting him in the head with a pool ball, a cue ball. So he's like, okay, well, the best way to do it is not to like fake it, like go past. The best way to do it is to just reverse it. So we focused on, reversing it, which you just do in the post.
So it looks like you're just
hitting the
pull
person,
really hard away, and then you play it in reverse, and it looks like you're hitting really hard. I mean, it's like stupid, simple stuff like that you don't even think about until you're actually doing it. And so, in the next shoot that you're doing, and you give that tip to somebody else, and they're like, what?
Well, I remember you had mentioned the Robert Rodriguez. Pretty much any Robert Rodriguez DVD, Blu-ray, or whatever will have some sort of mini filmmaking school. And then for the director, I want to say it was on the director commentary for Grindhouse. I'm just going to assume everyone's seen that film. In Planet Terror, when Quentin Tarantino, all of his stuff falls out, they did reverse it. They did the exact same thing. They set all the guts out on the floor and then pulled them back in. And I remember that was like really, really cool. And then when Lloyd Kaufman said to do it, I was like, oh yes, everyone does it that way because it's the most, it's practical and it's in camera.
Yeah. We've had, guys hanging by wedgies, supernatural wedgies, where you're not supposed to see like the ghost that's holding him up by the wedgie and stuff like that. You just figure out how to do it in a way that makes sense, and sometimes it's way simpler than you think it's going to be.
Oh, real fast, I did want to say film commission and like Facebook groups for the networking thing. Of course,
yes.
We're really lucky that we have social media. I've actually met lots of people just over like Instagram. Like one of my close friends, I've met her through Instagram. And then your local film commission, they'll always have, they'll like post up job postings. And if someone's posting on your film commission website, and they have film commissions per state, and then also some per city. Does Houston have their own? Or?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Houston has one. I know Dallas has one. Fort Worth has one. Austin has one.
Yeah.
And if someone's taking the care to post their project up on the film commission website, you probably want to talk to them because they know to take that extra step.
Yeah. Yeah, they also usually have a directory of other people.
Yeah, you can put yourself in the directory. It's free.
Even just as a production assistant, like sometimes big productions will come into town. They don't know anybody there. That's where they go. You know, they go straight to the film commission because they're not going to go find the obscure Facebook groups and stuff like that.
Yeah, they don't have time for that.
Yeah. But those exist too. You can go, just look up film groups in your community and find other people that are like you and want to do things and just try it out. You mentioned something else. Oh, the film commission also is another way. So I shot in a prison before, and it's actually property owned by the state. And so you do have to go through like extra hoops and stuff like that. So if you're looking for something special like that, and you don't have the ability to like build it yourself or find, somebody local that'll let you, the state film commission is actually more helpful to local filmmakers than you would think. They do tend to be funded by tourism kind of taxes, like hotel taxes and stuff. And so a lot of times they are focused outwardly trying to get productions to come into our communities so that we can get experience and stuff on bigger productions. So they don't, there's not a lot of real hard focus on like small indie horror filmmakers, but it's the same people and they overlap. And a lot of the bigger productions like commercials, I work on some commercial type stuff, and those guys, make a living and they get paid, $600 a day to go like be a grip on a commercial. They still get bored and they want to do creative stuff on the weekends. And so a lot of times you can get people like that they're making their like living doing these things, and even cinematographers that are really good, they still want to get their creative juices flowing on the weekends, so it's just always good to get out there and get to know people.
And the cool thing about horror is that so many people like it because it is truly a fun genre because it's so huge of a genre. It's such a huge umbrella. You can really do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Any sort of like performing arts, any sort of art at all will fall underneath the horror umbrella. And you can find those, and even if like it's someone who is good at drawing. We have a friend who's good at drawing, and then we found out that she actually went to school for storyboarding. So she's the person that we contact for storyboards.
Yeah.
You don't even have to have anything that's like extreme. Even if it's just like stick figures.
Yep, that's what I do. This is the best place to be, honestly. Frightmare. I've been coming here for 10 years, and it's turned into like this community that I never expected I would have. And we do mostly horror comedy, but this is the people that get us. Like, you get us. You understand our stupid jokes, and that's like a little tiny community. It's the most supportive. When we're fundraising, it's always like, you'll throw $10 at somebody if you know them and you understand like what they're trying to do. It's just cool. It's a cool environment to be in. Hey. So skills, we talked about how like I'm organized, and so I kind of got like assistant director gigs from that. But it sounds like, so those are her folders for her productions. Mine are mostly digital. I don't print out a lot of stuff anymore, but I have them.
Yeah, no, we're crazy people, and we're like we have to like hold the thing and touch the thing. Like seriously, our room is just full of VHSs. But what we make is what we call a production Bible. So like here's our big short that we did, and it has our poster artwork. And then so full disclosure, I did not organize this. My husband did, but he's got it: scripts, call sheets, the itinerary, headshots, and then we have all the storyboards. And it ended up, I know that the usual rule is like 1 minute per page, but for ours, it ended up being a little bit longer. Like it was a 20-page script, but it ended up being a 40-minute long short film.
Yeah, you can do that. You can stretch it out. Yeah, because sometimes you write, it's like there was a lot of silence, and it's like, a minute of silence, but it's only like one line on the page. So you try to space it out and like format it, but you end up, what you edit let me back up. The film that you wrote is not always the film that you end up with in editing. So you have your shooting script, and then you go shoot stuff, and then you have your edit. And sometimes it ends up being, it's not going to be a completely different movie, but there's a lot of stuff that can change in between the page and the edit. and when you're finally finished. And that's okay. Like, it's actually, sometimes it ends up being better than you had planned, because you're like, we didn't get this, or this was different. And, you know, that person, we had a girl in one of our movies that flaked on us in the middle of shooting after she had shot a whole day. And we decided to just kill her off screen. So she screams and disappears into a portal that's actually the toilet. And then when she comes out later, she's just a skull and a spine. And we're like, oh, that's sad, you know. When you're doing comedy, you can do that kind of crap. But, you know, the girl had 3 days. She showed up for one, so we killed her off. It worked.
I like that you put her in the toilet.
It was on a trailer. There was a lot of toilet stuff in that. The whole portal is a toilet, I think. But yeah, that's my husband. Hi. I was just telling him how we had an actress flake on one day, and then we just killed her off screen and threw her in the toilet, basically. So she came out dead already. And yeah, so you just kind of do stuff like that. And it actually worked. Probably worked better than having her on set for 3 days. She wasn't a main character, you know. It's like, if you get caught up on stuff like that and you freak out and you're already going to have drama. So you got to bring your level head to set, and when you're producing, especially if you're a director or producer, you got to like be the one that like thinks, okay, how am I going to get through? How are we going to go ahead and do this? Instead of like freaking out and be like, oh, you ruined my life and we can't do this anymore, you know. They flaked. Let them go, move on, and make your movie, you know. Don't let them take over your production just because they're stupid, you know. So yeah, have y'all ever had anything like that?
And all of a sudden I forgot every single time I've been on set. Yeah, I mean, we try to keep everything really, really small. I'm always so impressed with how many characters y'all have.
Yeah, it's kind of dumb.
No, I love it. No, I love it. Most of the time we have like 3 or 4 people, and then 3 or 4 people, 3 or 4 people.
Yeah. That's actually that's a good tip too, to keep your cast small, especially for your first one.
Oh yeah. Like we keep on making jokes. So our very first short film that we ever attempted was one of those that we were not prepared for, but I was like, no, we're gonna just do it, because if we never even attempt the first time, we're not going to get to the second, to the second short film. So we went to our friends, recording studio space, and then we just shot the whole thing in one black room, and it's literally called The Black Room, and there's like 3 characters. And it's about an underground chess organization where you can win big money, but if you lose, anytime you lose a chess piece, you lose fingers. So that was like the whole, we try to make it as small as possible. And then oddly enough, we've shot a lot of stuff in the exact same location. We've shot music videos there, and it's all one black room that is just like literally, it's black carpet. Yeah. It's almost like a black box theater. But because it's so bare and there's nothing going on in there, you can make it look different every single time. Like you hang up lights. We shot a Christmas short in one of the rooms one time. I think being resourceful is helpful, and then also being flexible, as you mentioned, because like our feature Feistmares, it was written for a motel. There's no way that we would have been able to film in a motel. Like it's about a guy he's having a really bad time and also doing a lot of drugs and having a really bad time. So you can imagine that it spirals out of control. So instead, we moved it to a cabin. Like an Airbnb type of situation instead of a motel. Yeah. I mean, we did that with Haunted Trailer too. It was like, oh, we're going to make this so cheap. It's a trailer. We can find somebody with a trailer that'll let us shoot in it. And then we realized it was going to take us 2 or 3 months really to get through the whole production, because we were shooting on weekends. And I looked at renting a trailer, and I was like, oh, we can find a trailer nearby. It needs to be a crappy trailer anyway, right? But then we looked at the cost of it, and like you got to get utilities turned on and all this stuff. We ended up deciding to build the inside of the trailer house inside Chuck's house. Like I turned his like nice carpeted formal dining room into a trailer living room. We put up
we went to Lowe's and we got the fake wood paneling, or not fake wood paneling, it was fake walls in our movie. And then, we put up 2x4s, put the paneling up. We cut a hole in one of them, hung a curtain over it. We even put some foil over a window at some point, like hung a towel over it. Because it didn't need to look nice, but we just needed to make sure there wasn't like crown molding in the shots and stuff. And we threw we asked for donations, like, hey, has anybody got an old crappy rug? And we did that. I think we made a coffee table out of some like wood scraps from the garage. Threw some cinder blocks in there. I think we had like part of an engine as an ottoman or something. Like they would put their feet up on an engine block. And so,
that adds to the whole mystique of these people that live in this trailer.
Yeah. We actually made a fake beer too. Like we designed a beer that we could use, and it ended up being used in like 5 indie Houston films because we made the labels, and you just spray paint cans white and then put the label on it. And it was Texas Thunder. We made Texas Thunder Light at first. And then I did a series with like a kids thing. And we ended up making Texas Thunder Cola. And like we made our own brand of beer. It's not even real, but it's like in so many things. And our friends actually made a commercial. Jeremy Summerall and Liz Redpath made a commercial for the beer that we ended up putting in the movie on the TV. And that was a fun way to put fun things in your movie, is like put it in the TV as like a commercial. We had a commercial for an exorcism kit that's part of the movie, and so you can incorporate people's things and bring people into your circle without having to be a big production.
It's something that we've learned like over the past few years is that people do truly want to help. And of course you're going to run into some people that are like, I want to help, and then they never follow up, and it's like, okay, that's fine, but a lot of times people do actually want to help, and they'll be there to, do those PA works or run to the, Kinko office if you need it or whatever.
Yeah. So that's all part of being a producer, actually, is getting everything that the director needs to pull off the film. So being a producer is all of those things. The producer is the person that everything falls on. So if you need something, something falls through, and on these smaller indie films, the producer can even be, if somebody's not there, hold the light. Like the producer is the person who's supposed to always be there and always have your back if you're a director. And so that's what Chuck and I work together pretty well, except when I'm not screaming at him.
I guess like if there's like a gap or a hole essentially in your production, your producer can be there to help you. Yeah. Like fill that gap. If you need a person, they'll be there to,
You don't have to actually do it. You find somebody to do
that.
to
do it. Yeah. But I mean, like on The Torturer, we had a specific day. Oh, yeah. Speaking of having a lot of people, I just said I never have a lot of people. I lied. Sorry. So on The Torture, we had a day that we called All Ghouls Day, which is a bunch of dead people who are coming in and kind of like attacking they're like haunting the main character. And we decided to shoot all of those scenes because we had to have so many dead people. We ended up with 20 people just from like random Facebook groups and stuff like that. And we weren't able to afford to pay anybody. I think we paid like maybe like the featured people. I don't really remember. You'd think I would, but I don't. And just and I had to make sure that the whole day was streamlined because I was acting as producer for that specific day. So like I put signs up everywhere and tried to make it as easy as possible. I had my phone number everywhere, text me if you need anything. I had 3 or 4 people that I would say, 3 or 4 trusted people where I was like, hey, just kind of do your job. But also if you see someone who looks confused, just send them my way. So we were able to make sure that everything went through pretty well. I personally checked in with every single extra, like when they walked in, and I introduced myself and, once again, pointed out the signs, told them like, hey, this is where lunch is going to be. this is, this is how the day is going to go. And I had been already in contact with each of the extras through before we even got there, and saying, okay, well, you're going to be playing a dead person. Is that okay with you? So on and so forth. Because, sometimes people see horror and they're not like, maybe that's not their thing, and that's okay. I like to be forward with everybody.
Yeah.
And just kind of like be there to, hey, if you need something, I am here for you. Trying to make people comfortable, because it's scary. Like, it's scary being on a set that's not yours.
That brings up another point that we wanted to make too. Like, we do end up having like nudity and people in vulnerable situations on set, and we were talking about how it's actually nice to have another female in the room when you're going through that. If you're an actress and you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position. I mean, even people that have done it for years, in their underwear, like, it's not fun. They're not gonna want to just sit there in their underwear and hang out like on set, and you have to put a lav microphone on people and like weird little positions and stuff. And the part about being a female, you bring that femaleness to everything that you do. It's not necessarily different, but it does kind of create a safe space for some of those actresses we've been around, and that's always been the case for me. It's like they really appreciate that I'm there, even though my husband, he's a great director. He's not gonna mistreat anybody. Like, it's just nice to have that another female in the room when they're having those conversations. And yeah, you're just creepy. But also, we might point out stuff like, that shirt's not really flattering on her, and we know how to like talk about it in a way that makes sense instead of, like I've had lots of wardrobe conversations, and if my husband says, like, oh, that makes your boobs look flat or something, like, it's gonna come out very different. Like, oh, let's show off though, it's nice to have a balance. So if you look around the room and it's a sausage fest, figure out how you can bring a little bit of different vibe to your set, and like find a woman. And usually that's a red flag to me if it's literally all of one type of person on a production. Try to bring somebody else in, like, be conscious of that, be aware of your own, like, oh, I may not understand that as much as somebody else, if there's kids, same thing. Like, I have kids, I'm pretty good with kids, and I'm aware of, like, they get tired, they get cranky and bored, and I know those things. And if you're not used to that kind of thing and you're filming with kids, like, bring somebody that gets that so they can understand that part of it. My daughter has autism. I've done several short films with like people with disabilities. That's also another thing. Like, I've been asked to come to work on movies because of that, because I understand those kind of needs and want to get a good performance out of somebody that has a disability, but I'm not going to be a dick about it, if that makes any sense. But, they recognize their limitations. And I think as a filmmaker, it's good to recognize your limitations, or recognize where you're coming from, and be able to find people that fill in the gaps in your skills and abilities and your point of view, and bring those people in. So I was going to ask you too. So you directed.
Yep, a few times.
Yeah. So how has your experience been as a director, as a female director? How do you think that has had an impact on your directing ability?
I don't really know. I feel like it's pretty safe, because like, since if I'm directing, it's with like my immediate group of people that I know really well. So, it's not scary. I know all these people. But I know like the very first short film that I wrote and directed, it was just a complete like disaster. I mean, like, and when I say disaster, I mean, not that, nobody got hurt. Everybody was fed. Everybody was fine. Everybody was in a good mood. But like, for me, it did not at all. I ended up cutting a lot of stuff. And it was one of those things where the project was way too big for what we had at the time, so like trying to like stretch it so thin, it just wasn't a good idea. But I am glad that I did it, because like we were discussing earlier, that like learning. So it was a huge learning experience for me. Yeah. And I mean, like it got done. It screened at the Texas Theater. So, I mean, like, it is a complete project, but I'm still personally not happy with it. The latest stuff that I have directed is part of our Hellbound Lament series. And for me personally, I'm more of like a, hey, you're the actor, you do you, man. You know, so I guess I don't really.
Yeah.
I don't really feel any
like you're
different. Right. Yeah, I don't feel like really any different.
Yeah.
But I imagine on other sets it would be different. I know that like when I first when we first started filmmaking, I had gone to a networking event here in town, and everyone assumed that just because, you know, I'm a woman that I was an actor. I personally don't like acting. I think it's really, really scary. I respect actors so much because it is horrifying to me. Like the idea of it is just like, you know, behind the scenes for me personally, please and thank you. But I felt like that was really uncomfortable for me. And I actually hadn't been to another networking event in quite a while. I hadn't been to a networking event in like the course of 4 years just because people kept walking up to me and going, oh, you're an actor. Or they always say actress. I personally try to say actor for everybody just because like actor person. But people would always just go up to me, oh, you're an actress, right? And I'm like, no. And they're like, oh, you're a model? I'm like, no, I'm a filmmaker. Oh. I'm like, well, that's rude.
Yeah. I had the same thing when I started out. Like, I had just gone through a divorce and lost a lot of weight. And I was like, hot.
You're still hot.
Thanks. I'm like chubby and married and happy now. But when I started out, like, I don't think people took me seriously because they saw this skinny, goofy girl and you know, like I was hanging around with the actresses and, you know, tried to keep up with them because, you know, they always looked amazing. And I wasn't taken seriously. And honestly, I had people that would come and ask to help on my stuff, but they really just wanted to take me out on a date. And like, you know, so if I didn't want to date them, they weren't going to edit my short film. And so, not that I like gave into that and started dating and married one of them or anything, but like that was an issue, and I didn't realize how bad it was until later. And I was like, you know what? Like, I don't know how many people actually wanted to work with me. And that's a really terrible thing to have to think. Like, did they just want to get in my pants or they actually want to make a movie with me? Mm-hmm. And so, you know, you have to keep yourself like grounded and, you know, keep going no matter what, because if you let that bother you, people are always going to be like that. It's, you know, there's going to be people that are just do stupid stuff, and if you let it bother you and get you down and make you stop what you're doing or freak out every time you're around a dude, it's like you can't get anything done. So, but it's definitely a thing that they assume you're an actress. It's still the same thing. Like, I'm sitting at the table signing all these, you know, posters I produced, and they're like, "Oh, is that you?" And I'm like, "No, no, I'm back here. Actually, I designed the poster." You know, stuff like that. So it's a thing that you have to think about. Speaking of staying motivated, how do you stay motivated?
Oh, I personally, I was explaining to her yesterday. So we have cheesy playlists of like music that makes you happy, music that makes you feel good. And of course it's going to be different for everybody. But like for us, we just dump it all in the exact same playlist on YouTube or, you know, like Spotify or whatever. And it's all over the place. Let's see. This morning on the way here, we listened to Trey Parker, we listened to the Muppets, we listened to the Reza, we listened to it. Like, when I say all over, I mean really all over. Frank Stallone. Yeah. I listened to my Frank Stallone this morning. And then also for me personally, I follow a lot of like motivational people on Instagram, and it's just, yeah, I know that stuff's kind of cheesy, but it still is nice to like, and I send my friends stuff too. Like, if you have like a friend group that you send each other motivational stuff, because even though, once again, yes, it is cheesy, you don't know if maybe sometimes people are having a bad day and they needed that extra push. And even people that you like super respect, and I have a friend who's she does like everything in the world, and I texted her the other day and I was like, hey, you're the most professional person I know, can you help me with this thing? And every now and then, yeah, I send her motivational stuff, and she's like, hey, I was having a bad day, thank you.
Yeah, it is nice to have people around that support you, even if you don't work with them. Just have like people that you can bounce things off of. we've found people actually at Frightmare that live, 8, 10 states away, 8 hours away, 10 hours away. And this is the only time we ever see them. But we email scripts back and forth and, bounce ideas off of each other. We have fundraisers. We're like, hey, there's our film showing in friggin' Monrovia, California, and some friends from Bakersfield will go to it. Yeah, exactly. And like, this is the only time we ever see them. It's like you find your people and keep them around you and also support them. Don't be the one that just like takes, give back a little bit too. That actually keeps me going.
I was gonna say, share people's stuff, like share their Indiegogos, share their posters, show that you are supporting them. And even if you're not telling them like, hey man, I shared this thing, just do it anyway. Yeah. Because like there's a lot of people that they never, like they've been in front and center in our previous works, but they never shared anything. And I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I'm tired because I have all these things to worry about, and just hitting the share button is literally the one thing that you could do, and they aren't doing it. It's a little bit disheartening, where it's like you guys thought you were friends, but they don't even bother to take the 2 seconds, to share the thing. Yeah.
That is one thing that has been tough for me. Like I'm better about it now, but like 5 years ago, my family broke my heart because like I was so excited about stuff and like so happy and proud of the things that I was doing, and they were just like, "Oh, you're making a stupid movie again?" Like there's gonna be people that do not give 2 shits what you're doing, and a lot of times it's people close to you, and you don't realize how that's gonna feel until it happens, and it's pretty gut-wrenching sometimes. And so it is hard. Like, you'll have lulls, and people always say, like, when you're a filmmaker, like, you love it and you hate it at the same time. It's like you're glutton for punishment. You're just asking for pain because it's painful. It really is. It takes you 2 years of your life to get a movie out, or more than that. Some people take 5-10 years to get a movie out. Chuck wrote some of these scripts, like, 15-20 years ago, and if he let that eat at him that nobody wants to make this, then he would have never made the movies when we did.
But sometimes it's not the right time. Like I had said about my film, my first one, that it was not the right time. And lately I've been like, well, I could dig up that script because I have it, but also I'm like, I'm personally not ready for it. But it is good that y'all have been sitting on the script, and now you're at a point where we're like, okay, we can do this and we can make it well.
Yep. Yeah, waiting and taking a long time that's just how it works. And if you watch any of the behind the scenes, like the movies that made us on Netflix, I love those things. You can see like they have these huge budgets and they go through the same things. So it's kind of nice to like watch those. They have $20 million budget film, and they still have people fighting and getting fired and having a girl die off screen and thrown in a toilet. Jaws, even like the freaking shark didn't work or something, and they don't even have a shark in the movie. There's just all this crazy stuff that happens, and that's just how it works. Like you're trying to put on a play, and like our films also take 15 to 20 days to shoot a feature, and that doesn't sound that long, but if you stretch it over 3 months or 6 months, it's a lot. And people get their hair cut, and their teeth fall out. If you're a little kid, if it's an adult, hopefully their teeth are not falling out while you're shooting. But like if you're shooting with a kid, 6 months later they grow up. They have a completely different body in 6 months, and so like there's a lot of things that are fighting against you, and you have to just want to keep going, or you're just not going to do it. So staying motivated is actually harder than it sounds, because it sounds like it's just going to be fun and all fun and games, but look at those binders. That's like homework. If you don't like hard work, then write a short film and give it to somebody else to make, because it is a lot of work to actually pull it off and make it and finish it.
Yeah, well, The Torture was our very first big short film that we had made. And oddly enough, we were going to shoot it in May of 2019. And of course, Frightmare happened, the first weekend of May of 2019. And that's actually how we met our director of photography. and back to the fake trailer showcase, we had shown the fake trailer that has Lloyd Kaufman in it, and this guy walked up to us, or he walked up to my husband. I don't remember where I was, and he walked up to my husband and was like, "Hey, I really liked that trailer. That's cool. You got Lloyd Kaufman. Blah blah blah. I'm here to help." And my husband was like, "Oh yeah, well, we're working on this short right now," and we still did not know. Like, we were like, "Okay, well, we'll contact these people to DP it," but we were still trying to pull things together because, like I said, it literally was the biggest project we'd ever done at the point. And he came in and he was like, "Oh yeah, I will help and I will do this for really cheap. How can I work on this with you?" But at that point, we'd had storyboards. We had already gone ahead and done the script breakdown, all of these pre-production stuff that had to be done. So when he came in, most of the work was already ready to go. So even though he had just met us like 2 weeks before, the shoot went pretty smoothly, considering like we literally all just met each other a few weeks previously.
Yeah.
But it was because we had that pre-production stuff done. And then in January of 2020, my team went to Austin to work on another feature. I stayed here, but they were over there, and those people had not done any pre-production. And I sat down and I did the DIT for them, and they had 99 scenes written, and they had only filmed like 30 because they didn't do their pre-production.
Yeah.
The film's still not done. That one's still not done.
Yeah. You can't do that.
Yeah, and you're kind of like not doing yourself a favor. Even though the pre-production stuff is boring, not fun, it sucks. I did write down Studio Binder. There's a website called Studio Binder. Super, super helpful. You can like download, script breakdowns from them. You can download pretty much everything from them.
Yeah. They have
most
really
of it's free.
good tutorials on YouTube too. I end up using those to teach my students sometimes. Even though we don't use Studio Binder for our class. There's another one called Synchronize that's a little bit more like hidden. Scene, SCENE, Chronize. It's actually owned by Movie Magic, the Movie Magic scheduling and budgeting software that's like really expensive. These guys built the Synchronize breakdown software, and then EP, who owns the others, bought it. But it's kind of like you have to find it secret way to sign up, and it looks like it's going to be expensive, but it's actually free. And so you go through, you upload your script, and then you tag everything. You make your strip board. You can move your strip board around and do all that, pre-production work in the software like Studio Binder. Celtx also has a free, not free. It's like $30 a month for the studio version of Celtx. CELTX.com. It's known really well for screenwriting software. It's like you go online and you write your script in the script format instead of paying for a final draft, which is really expensive. Celtx, you can actually do that for free, and you can have 3 projects for free. If you get more than 3 projects, I think you have to get the premium version or whatever. But there's all this like free online software, and they all have tutorials. That's why I don't usually go into these panels like wanting to like teach stuff like that, because you can find those things online. But like the experience that we get from working and like being around this stuff, it's just like a lot more engaging, I think, to talk about those things and to try to teach you those that you can just look up, read a book about how to write a screenplay.
Yeah, we have a whole section on our bookshelf of screenwriting and movie making books, and we still reference it. And then like last year, or also this year, the American Film Market is available online. Usually, we had actually done a cost breakdown of how much it would be for me to go out to Malibu with my friend. I think it's in Malibu, and it would have been like $1,000 or something, but now it's online, so I think it's like $200 right now. And last year I went and I sat in a bunch of panels, and it was so informative. Like I have a good like 20 pages of this notebook are just notes about stuff that they were talking about. And it's, even though they're talking about major features and stuff like that, it is still things that you can take and make and just, reformat it for you.
It's more the business side of filmmaking, which
business stuff.
There's a lot of business side. If you really want to sell your movie, if you want to get it out there and have people watch it, then you have to actually pay attention to that kind of stuff. You can make a movie, finish it, even show it at Frightmare. It doesn't mean you're going to get like 1,000 people to watch it. You actually have to have marketing, and you think about that ahead of time. When we were doing wardrobe tryouts for these guys. I ended up taking the camera and taking production photos of them while they were doing their wardrobe changing, like trying out the clothes. And so we were like, oh yeah, this looks good, and Chuck really liked that outfit. We like had the props, and I gave one of them black eye and fake blood on her eye. We took the production photos while we were doing wardrobe changes.
That's literally something that they mentioned in one of the panels last year at the AFM.
Don't forget to take pictures, BTS. We've actually, we've had to submit these media kits for even film festivals. I got a short film into Holly Shorts, the Oxford Film Festival, and a couple of others, like really good film festivals with my shorts. And they ask for that stuff, even for short films. Like, the closed captioning, the music cue sheet. There's all this like stuff that if you don't think about and you actually somehow get distribution for your film, if you didn't think about it, it's a lot of work to go do afterwards. So plan ahead and think about those kind of things. But like you mentioned, if you have like a star actress, a name actress in your film, work it into the contract that they're gonna at least promote it 3 times on their social media. Like we have Ron Jeremy in our movies. Ron Jeremy's in Haunted Trailer a lot, and then he's in Getting Schooled. He's like the first kill. Sorry, spoiler alert. Go watch Getting Schooled. It's out now on Amazon.
I think it's on Prime, right?
Yeah.
Okay. On Tubi.
Yeah.
I love Tubi.
Getting
Tubi's awesome.
Schooled. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can watch so much fun. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I have to take off and meet some people, but I wanted to ask, like, as an independent filmmaker, do you have to deal with unions and stuff? Like,
You can.
is there a way? How do y'all get through that kind of thing?
Yeah. In Texas, Texas is a right to work state. So a lot of people that make movies here don't go through the unions to do it. It's a lot of work for a really no budget indie film. I probably would never do it on a short film actually, because it's just like, it's a short film. Shouldn't be that big a deal. We've had SAG and SAG eligible actors, and we don't go through SAG. Like they come to Texas, they make it technically like FICOR or whatever. They might get in trouble for it, but nobody really cares usually.
SAG-AFTRA last year did add a micro budget agreement. If you go on their website and you just go in the search engine and look for micro budget, they do have one. That's something that we were looking into for our next one. But also at the same time, it's like there's so many extra rules. I'm just like, eh.
Yeah.
And Paul T. Taylor, who was Pinhead in Hellraiser Judgment, he's our main character in our short film, The Torturer. And we just asked him because, he's here. He's from the Metroplex. We're huge Hellraiser fans. Like, that's like our whole thing. Clive Barker fans. It's just like a whole, but, we just asked him, and he was like, yeah, this is how I want it to do, is that I want to go through my, through my agent, et cetera, et cetera. I think a lot of times people just want to work.
Yep.
They just want to work, you know?
Yeah, they're like, you know what, you're a new filmmaker, like, I'll do it. Well, I mean, you do have to have your shit together, like we've given scripts to people before and they turn it down. They're not interested in doing it at the time. You just move on. There's people like Ron Jeremy that would do anything. So he was like, in our movie, no problem,
But that's a trauma thing, asking porno stars.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
You pay them, they come do what you ask them to do, and he was actually very professional, and we shot him on green screen, and I did makeup and wardrobe. Or we had a makeup person that day, but like we did wardrobe with him, and like he took notes from Chuck, and like he was an actor, like they want to come do their thing, and we did ask up front, like, can you promote it? Because that's the whole reason you have somebody in the movie, But, you know, we did have a movie where there was an actress going through some shit when she did our movie. She almost didn't do it. And she looks back at her life when we were filming, and she doesn't have good memories of that time in her life. And she just seemed like she doesn't even care. Like, she didn't want to promote the movie. She didn't care. She didn't share it. And we were kind of disappointed because she had a huge following, you know? And he came to the screening. We had a party. We had a fundraiser for a filmmaker at the time. Like, we had this whole thing with him. And, like, he's like, heck yeah. And, like, he'll retweet some shit, you know? And but then we have people that are in your movie that you, like, go to all these links to work around their schedule, and then they may not do it, you know? So you got to be upfront about stuff like that. We're putting you in this movie because you have 1 million followers. Like, we want you to share, you know? Like, that's why we have you. But they do still want to do it because it's fun and they get to be creative, and, you know, it's different for them. They're used to doing soap operas, and you're making a horror movie. That's unique for them. Do we have other questions?
I have one is because I'm a photographer. Just kind of started the last couple of years and stuff. But I have a couple friends in Austin that do direct and producing and stuff. How would you say, or if there's still a job around for on-set photography, or is that like on-set photography / cinematography? And then my other one is, what's your take on female voices in horror? So,
Yeah.
Totally opposite ones, but.
So the photography question. So we always like to have a photographer on set taking BTS,
Okay.
behind the scenes. That's one of the things that, you know, if you get distribution and you get into a big film festival, sometimes they want that.
Okay.
But also it's good for your social media.
Mhm.
You know, if you're fundraising, BTS is always really good. And just having somebody with, like, a real camera there is nice.
Yeah, that's what I kind of really would love to like
Yeah.
get into.
There's people that do that, like, for a living.
Yeah, actually, the on-set photographers on big sets, they make $600-$700 a
Yeah.
day. I want to say, like, it's
Yeah.
very much so a viable career path. I mean, like, for our on-set photography, we had someone who came in and did the BTS stuff for our Hellbound Lament series, and we weren't able to pay him because we weren't able to pay anybody for anything. This is just like a fan film sort of situation. But we were like, hey, whenever you're available, if you are available, and he was able to come in for a few hours. And honestly, that he took like 200 or 300 pictures, and we're still able to like share all those things. And, you know, we tag him, and we're like, hey, make sure to hire him next time.
Yeah.
So as long as, and you can ask your people to do that. Say like, hey, I want to come on and help out, but I really need you to be able to talk me up too, so that way you can get more jobs.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be
Push
best
your
for
waterline.
everybody.
So
Yeah.
like connecting, and then what you
Yeah.
said earlier about film when they're posting jobs and stuff, just take a look, and that's kind of how you would
Yep.
get into. Okay.
And
Yeah,
you can
just
go to
go.
the film commission and list yourself as a, you know, on-set photographer. If someone is posting up somewhere that they're like, oh, hey, you know, we're going to be filming, I'm looking for extras. You say, hey, do you guys have an on-set photographer? It sucks because you have to do so much extra legwork. But I think once you get to a space where people know who you are, and you're like within your little group, just keep going.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the female voices in horror thing, I think it's kind of crazy that we don't have more female directors that come and like do shows like this. The Soska twins were here a few years ago. You know, American Mary is good. A lot of people love it, and there's people like,
I saw it recently.
yeah, but like, you know, there's like they're imperfect and stuff, and so like but I don't feel like I can talk shit about any of them because I want to talk them up.
Yeah.
You know, like because it's still kind of rare. It's weird to me. It's weird to me that there's not more. But
It is strange, actually, because women have always been involved in horror, of course, you know, just like from where you're going for literature, theater, and then now to film with that transition there. I don't know where the disconnect happened. It's almost as if, like, I don't know, I guess people that are gatekeepery, you know, and of course everyone knows that that's an issue in every type of different fandom. But I think that things are getting better. We had chatted a little bit yesterday about it.
I was wondering if you see an uprising a little bit just because of the Me Too and Time Up, and people are like starting to.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just didn't notice for a long time, which is weird.
that is
But
weird.
you know, you look around and you're like, wait, there's no other women here. Like, that's weird. Like, why is this a thing? You know? And sometimes some people, you don't do it on purpose. It's not like a bunch of dudes got together and were like, let's keep the women out, you know?
No.
It's just like she said, the gatekeeper kind of thing. Like, it's just, it takes time for us to like get through those things.
Especially like just normal gender roles where people just go, oh, you're a girl, so there's no way that you're gonna want to see, you know, really gross things.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm one of those people that's like, oh, the grosser the better, make it all goopy.
Yeah. And I'm actually more of like, I do horror comedy. Comedy is my thing. I like want to do comedy stuff. And actually, like when I was in high school, my high school English teacher showed our class Birds, and our class was laughing at it, and he was like horrified at us laughing at the movie. He was just like, what is wrong with you? You know, and I just thought it was hilarious. And I tend to be more scared of stuff that's like real, like this shit could happen in real life, you know, like visceral, like somebody steals my kid, like somebody hurts my family, that kind of stuff like horrifies me. And so I tend to like not want to watch stuff like that most of the time because I want to feel better, and like I want to, at the end of the day, I would rather watch something funny and make me feel good than like freak me out more than I already am.
Oh, I do like the whole good for her genre of horror that I like a lot more people are talking about.
Yes.
Like personally, I really love the film Starry Eyes. I mean, like it's like a man directed it, and I think a man wrote it, but like the protagonist is a female, and you know, it's about her trying to achieve her ultimate dream, which is being a movie star. And I like that it's something that I think everyone can relate to, trying to achieve your ultimate dream, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And she's and all these people around her, they're holding her back. I don't know if people have seen it or not. I highly recommend it. It's Alessandra Esso, who was not able to make it in this Frightmare, but she was supposed to be here.
Yeah. But that's why I wanted to do this panel, actually, is to try to encourage more women and girls to get involved.
That's good.
Yeah, because you're like, you don't have to just be an actress. It doesn't, you know, you have more to give than just your looks. There's a lot to be said, you know, from our perspective that hasn't been said yet because we just haven't been able to make that many movies, and we got to get out there and do more.
So I would like to see more women's voices and more like LGBT voices.
Yep.
Coming into horror because you see the male voices.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I really.
And me being a male, like.
Yeah.
But it's right. I enjoyed Jordan Peele's like Us, and there's just so many like movies that are starting to come out now. I'm like, yeah, yes, this is what we've been missing, and you know, I want to see more of that.
Yeah, we actually rewatched Us the other day, right after we came home from watching the new Candyman, because I wanted something that was like in the same vibe. But the for me, Us is actually scary because like the whole idea of doppelgangers like creeps me out. You know, and I'm glad that someone is looking at that kind of stuff where it's not a traditionally scary thing, but at the same time, yes, it is, because it's just way back deep in there. In fact, it's so scary that we don't really want to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know,
that's the kind of stuff that like freaks me out. Get Out, like that. Just
Love that.
Dude, that's one of my favorite movie theater experiences because we got to go see it at a completely full theater. And I remember Joe walking out the theater and he would like ask someone else, like someone that we haven't been near, for a cigarette, and a bunch of people just gathered around and were like chain smoking because everybody needed to calm down. And it was just, that was a really fun experience. I do hope that we're able to get back into the movie theater soon. Oh, actually, that's a good point. So we actually, like, we're hosting a screening for, and we're looking for short films or trailers from people. I have a card somewhere. I don't know. My husband stole them, I guess. And we're going to do a screening at a Studio Movie Grill. Just finding and asking, like, your local theaters, movie theaters for screenings. And if you do it on a slow day, they'll do it for really cheap. And you can host your own screenings, like for your friends, and just call out and ask for other people's help. because it is a really awesome feeling to get your work up on the screen.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's still great. We sit in the back of the room and listen to people like get our jokes and laugh when they're supposed to laugh and jump when they're supposed to jump, that kind of stuff, which we don't have a lot of jump scares in our stuff. But that first time when you have this room full of people, mine was actually Splatterfest. We used to do this 48-hour film festival thing in Houston called Splatterfest, and it was literally just like the 48-hour film festivals, but for horror. So you get like a topic and like a dialogue and like a character and a weapon that you have to use in a short film. You have to write it on the weekend, shoot it on the weekend, edit it, and then turn it in Sunday night. You have 48 hours. For Splatterfest, it was 54 hours.
Ooh,
yeah,
nice.
Sorry,
it sounds like the extra 6 hours doesn't make a difference, but it does.
Yeah, it's huge.
Jason's going, yes.
We still didn't turn it in on time because the flash drive we were trying to put it on would not let us put more than 4 gigabyte file onto it. So we're literally in the parking lot trying to figure out why our file's not going in the flash drive, and it was late because of that.
No, I'm so sorry.
We were rendering. We had the Mac like in the back of the car, like rendering on the way to the thing, and it's still we didn't make it. But I had a whole female team one year, just because Chuck like basically said, "What?" Yeah, that was that year. So he was like, "Oh yeah, that would be funny, like being on what did you say, like all female set? We would just get around and talk and cry, and it would never get finished or something." And I was like, "You motherfucker!" And so
obviously you're like, "Fuck you, I'm gonna do it."
Yeah, so we did it, and then we didn't get it done on time, which kind of sucks because kind of proves his point. But no, it was great. Like we still got to show it on the screen, and people were excited, and like it's really interesting to have like a female antagonist and a female protagonist, and all the other characters were female. And we had one dude in our movie, and he was a mechanic, and like dead in the first shot of the film. So like he had been dead already. We shot in a mechanic shop. I got to ruin my dress from my last marriage in the movie. I was like determined to I was like, I really want to put this dress into a horror movie. And so we like poured oil on it and ripped it up with a box cutter, and it was so cathartic. But like our wardrobe girl was like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, with the divorce I just went through, yes, please, someone murder the dress." It was really cool and fun, and like it was uplifting to all the women there. They were so excited. We actually had a really well-known cinematographer come out and just do audio for us because we couldn't find an audio person that was a female. And so it was just a really cool set to be on. The energy was neat, and we had very good like inclusive vibes going on there, and it was I want to do it again, just haven't had the opportunity to. But maybe he'll say something stupid and I'll do it again.
Yeah, 48-hour film races, man. That's actually the first time that we were able to get on Trauma Now because of a 48-hour film race. And they are stressful. But yeah, once you get to the end and you have it turned in, and then you get to sit down and watch, what you've made with all your friends, it feels really good.
Yeah.
Very much so a sense of accomplishment.
And you'll cringe.
And you have a short film.
Yeah, you'll cringe at the mistakes that you made and like, I really wanted that doesn't look good. But then it's nice to finally have something at the end. So it's like 2 now. It's like 2:12.
Oh my gosh, really?
See?
Okay.
It goes fast.
Do you want to do questions and then blood, or?
Yeah, so we have questions. Chuck, are you talking about me?
It sounds pretty specific.
So we did have a short. It was called Princess. Some of you might have seen it. We worked on it together with Jeremy Summerall. Are you talking about Princess?
Yeah, I'm talking about
Okay. I was like, how many times have I saved your butt? So on Princess, we actually had a girl. So like the little girl was supposed to be like, we're showing flashbacks of her birthday party that gets like traumatized. She gets traumatized at her birthday party and then grows up to be like a murderer, fun stuff. And so she was supposed to like hug her dad, very benign, like, "Hi, I love you, daddy," and like hug an actor that's not her dad. and she just refused to do it. Like, she just would not do it. Yeah, she didn't like him. He was the director, and I think she also saw us arguing and didn't like it. Like, she was very, like, defensive of me or something.
Aww.
And so I had to actually put the actor's clothes on and stand there and pretend to be the dad, and her look up at me and say, "I love you, Daddy," because she would not hug the actor.
Aww.
So, like, I'm a very mothering person. I had kids her age. Actually, I think they're almost the same age. And, her mom was there, and she was trying to get her to do it, and she just would not hug this guy. And finally, I was like, well, I can fit in his clothes. I couldn't now fit in his clothes, but I put his clothes on, and she hugged me, and I was the stand-in for the dad in the film, because she wouldn't listen to anybody else. And I was probably the only person on set that day that would have been able to do that. So it's just nice to have a variety of people. You never know what kind of situation you're going to be in. If you look around and all the people look like you, maybe fit some other people in there,
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier about getting a different set of eyes. Because since everybody's lives are so completely different, like you have no idea what someone's going to bring to the table.
Yeah. We had, we shot, if you saw Life Insurance Lottery, there's actually a scene in a gun range where they go and shoot guns, and there's like slow-mo, and like one of them has like a semi-automatic rifle and stuff, and Chuck posted a shot of that one day, like a clip of that scene. It was the day of the Santa Fe shooting, Santa Fe High School mass shooting in the Houston area, and I called him and was like, you got to take that down. This is not the day to post that, and so have people around you that are aware of things and like looking out for you so that you don't look like an ass, like, hey, tell me if I'm looking like an ass. That's a good thing to have somebody around that does that.
Yeah, on our sets, we've officially gotten to the point where we like to be direct, honest, and forward. And the forward is usually what kind of like creates some sort of issue. Like for us, all of us are very much so very blunt. But some people that like makes them uncomfortable. So maybe you have to figure out a more delicate way to say things. But being able to have an open communication is incredibly important, especially like you mentioned earlier with the nudity. We're working with blood. We're working with things that are, taboo, even though it's not taboo to us because we're like, oh yeah, we're playing with blood. We're working with horror. For other people, it might be scary, and just trying to be mindful of people's feelings. Yep. But still being direct, honest, and forward.
Does anybody else have questions before we go to blood? Cut to the blood.
So you mentioned a few times during the panel that as filmmakers, there's a learning curve as to what to prepare in organization. So what were your experiences from short to short, feature to feature, in like the learning curve of how to make a movie, deal with actors, and just if you have like a handful of things you wish you would have known at the very beginning?
Yeah. You go first.
Okay, I guess I'm going first. The being prepared, and no matter how prepared you think you are, you're not. You're not. That is true. So actually, this is a good point. Tori's first film with us was The Torturer. And that most of her experience comes from just, like self-taught and then also working in haunted houses. But haunt makeup is different from screen makeup. And luckily for us, we had hired someone to be a head, in charge of all of like the really, really complicated stuff. And he was able to give tips and everything. But once going back to having communication, like we're at the point where and even with that first short film, she was comfortable to go up to me and say, hey, I need XYZ, or she was comfortable to go up to someone on set and say, hey, I need these things, because film sets are really, really stressful. Like, it's going to be stressful. So you don't want to be mean to other people, and you want to, once again, have that open communication. So yeah, just try to be as prepared as possible. Have your script highlighted. I mean, we did a read through for the torture, but honestly, even though we did a read through, it didn't make, I don't feel like it even made a difference when we actually got to filming. But like for Weissmare's, our first feature, we did a read through and recorded it. And I think did we do it on Zoom? I don't remember. No, we did it in person.
Yeah.
But you guys scared the massage therapist that was there for Tara. Yeah, so look, like we messed up. We were doing a read through at our house, and my roommate, she has a massage therapist. She has cerebral palsy, so she has a massage therapist that comes in and helps her out. And we hadn't told, back to communication. I messed up on communication. We didn't tell her that we were doing a read through for a film, and the film has a lot of like really graphic words and, you know, things that are being said. So it freaked her out because like she didn't know. So she just left and she sent me a message. She was like, hey, I was really, really uncomfortable. And I realized I had messed up on that communication.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, I think it goes to trying to be as prepared as possible, you know, and also being communicative.
Yeah. Planning ahead is just like the biggest thing. Like you got to plan ahead. You have to think about things. Think through things. Like if you're going to have actors eating food and drinking drinks, they have to do that multiple times, you know? Like you have to, we had a guy, it was stupid, it was the director, it was dumb. But he ate like 18 hamburgers or something over the course, because he was like, I have to do it like this. And he would take these gigantic bites every take. And then like he would eat a bunch of hamburgers and he would go and throw up and then he would come back. You know, you don't want to do that to somebody. You know, think about what you're putting them through. We have very emotional stuff that we're filming sometimes. And, you know, I had a character that needed to get into an emotional space. Give them the space to do that and think about it. Like they're going to need a room to go into and like prepare. And when they come on set, they're ready to go. Don't fuck around and have them sitting there in this trying to get this tears welled up and you're talking about pizza and fucking around, you know, like set the tone on the set that like, hey, we're working here. This is an environment where we're trying to get this goal and everybody has to work together to get to this goal. And sometimes that goal is literally just getting this person to cry. You know, everybody's got to be quiet for a minute. It's a quiet time. Shoot this scene. Everybody chill out. And then we can fuck around after set, you know. It's, you know, you got to plan and think about things way ahead of time. I thought about something else when you were talking and now I already forgot it.
Actually, I was going to say like when the film that my team shot in Austin, I wasn't there. I wasn't able to be there. I have an 8-year-old, so you know she has to go to school. But there was some nudity stuff, you know, and like I felt really uncomfortable because I wasn't able to physically be there to make sure that the actors were okay. So I had already told like my husband, like, hey, make sure that they feel comfortable, make sure that they're not too cold because they're filming like nude in January. Like in Austin, they were flipping freezing, you know, and I personally have had to like do that before too when I used to model like a long time ago. And I remember he had to get into an argument with the director because the director, he wanted to just see like the goods. He wasn't caring about his movie at that point. And my husband's like, you can't do that. You know, you can't have like 10 people in here. It just needs to be the cinematographer and the actor. And we've got, you know, our extra little screen that you can be in another room watching because you're already asking them to do so much for you. Yeah. Why would you, you know, try to make them uncomfortable? And they're not going to act very well either if they're uncomfortable. Yeah. You need to back to giving them that space.
Yeah, we had that in, I don't know if any of you have seen the short film called I Am Monster. Shayna Lark and Lori Bowen directed it. And we went out to California to work on it. Well, Chuck was like farting around in LA while I was on set. You were a producer, so you didn't have to be there. But we got to the parts where she was shooting her vulnerable scenes. She also happened to be the director. She was like the actress and director. So she was able to set the tone and say, like, we need to be in this room. And when it was time for her to, like, do her scenes where she was nude or something, she wanted nothing but women in there. And so she built this set where she was like, you know what? Courtney, you're slating. Somebody teach this person how to push record on the camera. So the guys got the set all, you know, ready to go. And then they left the room and let the women actually shoot those scenes. And she was able to perform because she felt comfortable with what she was doing. You know, she was having sex with a dead body, but you know, she did it well.
Yeah, and I mean, like a lot of times actors are gonna say, yeah, sure, I'm comfortable, but like if you can feel when they're not,
Yeah,
you know, and it will come across on screen.
yeah, for sure. You know, and if the emotions aren't there, it takes the audience out of the movie. So you got to do what you can, and having us there, I think, helps with that. Even when I'm not producing or directing, I try to pay attention to those kind of things and like be there for that person if they need to. You know, they've got their bra strap sticking out or something, I'll just go tuck their bra strap in. And you know, that would be weird if Chuck went over there and did that, you know, unless he knows them really well. But anyway, there's a lot of aspects to it that I think we don't think about that our femaleness brings to the table. And we're still learning what that means. Like it's, you know, every time we make a movie, it's a new experience. Every set's different, and every group of people are different. I don't think I'm a better filmmaker. I just think it's a little different, and that's okay. You know.
Well, I think you mentioned having diversity on set is really, really important, and
Yeah.
that feeds into it. Is that we had done a music video where the model had actually come up to me specifically and said that she was grateful that we had women on set because she had gone to so many sets where she didn't know if she was safe or not because it was only men, and she's trusting that it was, you know, that it was just going to be okay. And do, like, you know, if someone's uncomfortable and they want to, you know, bring their friend, if they're doing something that is like, you know, intimate or whatever, that's okay. And also there are intimacy coordinators. That's like a whole nother career path that, like, if you have people that are, you know, having sex on screen or something, which we've actually never done, oddly enough. We've actually technically, for Little Spark Films, have never shown nudity.
Yeah.
Oop, I don't know why. Like, it's so weird.
Yeah.
You'd think that we would be comfortable around it, especially like with the burlesque stuff, but we are not.
Yeah. We haven't done a lot of that either. I mean, we just the Princess, the short film, we had a little bit of that. Yeah, a lot.
A lot.
It was some boobs.
A little, a lot. It depends on who you ask, right?
Yeah. I tend to not even think about it, but then I look back and I'm like, whoa. That's why my kids don't watch all my stuff. Do we have any more questions before we start like digging into the stuff, the fun stuff? Right.
I don't know if we answered your question.
It was a conversation, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I guess the answer is no.
Yeah.
Never make mistakes.
Yeah, so blood obviously is like we make horror movies, and so we've actually made different types of blood, and I made a lot of poop too. A lot of fake poop in Haunted Trailer. Getting schooled, you have different murders, you have different textures of like wounds, and so this is just one little tiny aspect of it. And when you're on a low budget, you got to figure out how to make stuff cheap and make it look as real as you can. And so I found this trick, and this is not like when we make movies where we have lots of kills, we hire an effects artist. But when we don't have the money and we're just making like a little tiny thing, I will make a bunch of blood out of chocolate syrup and food coloring. And like, you just mix it until it gets right. You just mix it until it looks the right color. And so the trick is to actually not use it on paper, not put it on paper or whatever, put it on someone's skin and see if it looks right. And so, if it looks like blood on your skin, then it's going to look like real blood,
I like how goopy that is.
Yeah, chocolate syrup. And I literally just put red food coloring until it turns the right color. That's it. That's the trick. And so I actually brought some and some little containers. If y'all want to make your own, I'm going to put it out here on the table and you can make your own fake blood and take it with you. I even have Ziploc bags because there's no way it's not going to spill. But anyway, well, I'm going to spread that out and y'all can come and do that and play with it and have fun and talk, ask us questions and stuff.
Yeah, and I've got my storyboards here and my production stuff. Like, here's the script. And for this script, we actually didn't write it. We had optioned it from from someone over in the UK. So this script actually was written by someone who's a novelist. So it looks completely different than if you were to write your own script, because I mean, you're not gonna, like, there's one of the images that he has is they're whipping someone's knuckles, and then his knuckles were weeping red tears, and I was like, you can't put that into film. But of course, he's a novelist. But I still love like the mental imagery that it gives you, because you can kind of like, you know, mess around with it.
Yeah.
So we actually have the script he sent us, and we have our shooting script because we had to reformat it and notes, all that kind of
So
stuff.
you can see how
like,
different that is.
Yeah,
It's a
and
different
everyone is
kind of
welcome
writing.
to like go through that.
Yeah. So that's it.
Any other questions before we reconvene?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go with no.
Okay, that's the end of our talking. I'm gonna set out the fake blood stuff. Yay!